show where every single day I get up here, and especially on Fridays a few times, and discuss topics that pertain to me and mine. Who are me and mine? My village, my people, my tribe, my family, people that have been impacted by prison and aka incarceration, maybe have struggled with things dealing with mental health, addiction, and more. Man, we talk about life. And I always like Fridays because I get to bring guests up here on the show that are making an impact when it comes to people being in prison and the conditions, and just being a voice for us that are incarcerated, man. So, first and foremost, thank you for hopping up here, Allison.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Thank you. I'm going to read your bio. I don't read everybody's bio. I'm going to read your bio. I'm going to
Okay.
shout you out too. My brother, shout out to my brother, Poetic. I got to shout out Allison and put her on blast because she was one of the people that was a voice for my brother. You don't have to do that. People don't have to do these things. So I'm really glad to have you up here. But for anybody that wants to know, Allison is an advocate and co-representative for justice reform. She's a dedicated advocate for systemic change in the justice system, serving as co-representative for Survivors for Justice Reform alongside my boss, Fatima Muwahid. Uh, her passion for reform is deeply personal, stemming from her experience as the loved one and an individual who's been in long-term solitary confinement, which I'm grateful that we can get into that conversation. Not grateful that we can get into it, though. But she's powerfully stated that solitary confinement is a form of torture, abuse, drawing attention to its severe psychological impacts, which I know a little bit about firsthand. So, again, grateful for this convo. And also, Allison brings professional experience from the field of education, having worked for Teach for America, and she utilizes her background for personal insight as a fierce advocate, man. I had to read out your bio. I had to.
Oh, thank you. That was good.
That was a good bio.
That
That
was a
was
great bio. Who did that? Fatima. Shout
that,
out Fatima.
yeah, that was my boss. That was Fatima right there. Had to be. I got to rewrite my bio now. I got to get something else going now. Thank you for hopping up here. Like I was saying, if my screen turns blue, this is live. Just keep going. They can see you, not me. I'll be back.
I saw that with Taj and I'm like, oh my goodness.
We're live. We're live tonight.
Yeah, we're
Um,
live.
Listen, I just want to ask you straight up because you're an advocate. So I want to
Yeah.
get into the why right away. Because are you somebody, it didn't say you were formerly incarcerated, it says you have a loved one that's incarcerated, but I don't want to assume that's the reason you got involved in the advocacy. But what is the reason?
When I was a little girl, I just knew I wanted to be an advocate when I started to learn on the civil rights movement and different things like that. I just was like, how could that happen? And then when I went through I did a social work background in my bachelor's, and I did an internship in a prison, and I was in the recovery services unit where I was counseling men in recovery. And I saw some of the way they were dehumanized, and I was like, whoa. And then but then I became a teacher, and I was a special ed teacher for 6 years in Central Phoenix. And a lot of my students were directly impacted by incarceration. And the school to prison pipeline, I knew based off my kids, I taught a lot of brown kids, and I knew their race and their disability status, and that they were boys, and their reading levels, that they were more likely to go into the system. So that's when I started to get passionate about it. And then fast forward, loved one incarcerated, and I started on an individual level having to advocate for him because he got shipped out to one of the remote prisons in Appalachia, Virginia.
Yeah,
And I needed help, so I started with an organization. And shout out to Kenneth Deuce Hunter, because
and I do.
that's one of the advocates that I worked a lot with in the beginning, who taught me a lot. And from there, it's just expanded because I just care about vulnerable populations, whether it's the elderly, children, people behind the walls, or a vulnerable population, and us as their families.
For sure, man. Shout out. I was just on the phone with Deuce yesterday, man. He'll be up here soon. We're gonna be bouncing around on a few
Yeah.
things, but you said something that stuck out to me, and I don't know if it's ever been discussed on this stream. Can you break down the people that school to prison pipeline thing and how you were seeing it firsthand?
Yeah. So, I mean, luckily I didn't see any of my students go in because they were young. I taught K through 8. But the school to prison pipeline, and a lot of times they utilize what really is the cradle to prison pipeline. You really can be born into it, into communities. And that's why I love Survivors for Justice Reform, because we're all about restorative and transformative justice. And transformative justice says it starts in our communities. We have to change the systems. So systemically, based off of your zip code, where you were born, um, then another component is color, like race, and then another component is education status, like all these. And if you have someone incarcerated, you're more likely to be funneled into the prison system. And if you think about our schools, and shout out to my public school teachers, I was a public school teacher, and
Yeah.
if I go back in the classroom, I will teach public school. I love public schools, so this is not anything against it. But if you look at the way they're set up, they're like concrete, they're dark, they even kind of mimic it. And you look at the school
The
buses, and then,
lighting, the
yeah,
walls, the
sit still,
trades,
sit up, like
the
raise
wet
your hand,
yard.
stand in a line. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Is it? Is it weird? I don't. I use it.
Well,
It's.
it's built by design. It's doing what it's
I
supposed to
know you
do.
know. Yeah, we
It's,
know. What she listen. Look at. Think about it. Especially if I'm from Chicago.
oh, okay,
Maybe schools is right. Maybe schools is different in different places. But I can tell you, my schools, when I look at it, very similar to an institution I ended up years later, and I was behind walls and barbed wire fences. The lighting, like we said, even the food in the cafeteria, the,
yeah,
the light, the smells of the building in a lot of ways, the concrete, the paint, all of these things are designed. But we'll get into that in another episode,
yeah.
episode 15. Um, because I want to get into a few things. I want to
Okay.
speak on that. You said Survivors for Justice Reform,
Hmm.
an amazing and wonderful coalition. I'm seeing them pop up everywhere. I want to
Yeah.
shout them out. And I also want to say I'm an advocate for victims too, man. There's something people think I just advocate for people that are incarcerated. I advocate on both sides. Right is right, wrong is wrong. I don't go for the negativity, and I'm glad to be connected to people that are being a voice in different ways. Because you use some really big words like transformative justice and stuff like that as well. Can you break down all that stuff, what you guys do, and some of the stuff you were just speaking about as well for people?
Yeah, I wanted to give Survivors for Justice Reform it's a global coalition, so it's
Mhm.
all over the world. Our founder is Marley Liss, and she's amazing. She was the first individual in North America. She's in Canada, but from Canada, the US and Mexico and South America. She's the first one that brought restorative justice to her case. She was a survivor of S violence, or SA as an acronym for it. So she started this global coalition based off her experience. We're survivor led, and we have allies as well, and we're grounded in anti-oppression and collective care. And so we are people who, and I'm a survivor myself, that's why I joined it. And we have experienced some type of violence and human trafficking as well. And we challenge the system, the punitive system, because it re-traumatizes us as survivors. And it
Excuse me
actually,
one second too.
yeah,
Survivor is a better word than victim. I went through my language sensitivity training. Thank you for saying that. I want to acknowledge that. Survivor. Thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah, we like to use that, but in terms of legalities and stuff, they still utilize that. But we are trying to stop the cycle of harm and make it about survivors, because oftentimes when we go through the system, it re-traumatizes us. And it's like fewer than 2% of cases get found. So we're trying to say, like, options outside of the carceral system is what we advocate for.
Less than 2%.
Yeah, I brought a statistic here. Fewer than 2% of S violence cases result in legal sanctions. Yeah.
That's
And then
crazy.
we go through all of that, and the court system and things like that, where we should be at the center of that as a survivor.
Right.
It should be for our healing, because in restorative justice and transformative justice, it's still accountability. A
Right.
person who committed harm still has to sit in that room for however many hours
Right.
and have a circle and talk about this and get therapy and get help. Whereas you go through this terrible system where the judge and everyone's making these decisions for you. And then this person goes into the system, and as the system, and I know as someone in the system, it doesn't help. The system
Right.
only just
No.
like perpetuates. Yeah.
Yeah. No. The less than 2% that's startling, and I can only imagine that that's discouraging on so many levels, and why so many things probably go unreported and et cetera, et cetera. Because when you're bringing it to a system and there's no results. So glad you guys are doing the work, you
Mhm.
know, and bringing with these words that I feel like we're starting. Fatima was like, "Dude," I'm like, what's that? I had to go get Chat GPT and research and all this stuff.
Yeah,
But
tuning in to look into restorative and transformative justice,
yeah,
everyone. Yeah.
for sure. Because you hit it on the head. The system that's in place now, and I
Mhm.
always say this because there's a percentage of people they don't care about people in prison. They think they should just go through the worst of times, situations, and conditions. But if when those people come home, they're more likely to commit something in your neighborhood. And
Yeah.
everybody should want everybody to come home better.
Yeah, because most people are coming home statistically. So if they're coming home to be your neighbor or your worker, like why would you want, and family members, why would you want to, that just continues the cycle of harm.
Yeah.
That's why it's really hard when you see those comments of like, they deserve it, bring back the death penalty and things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy
Yeah.
stuff. And which leads me into the next thing that I really want to get into. Solitary confinement.
Hmm.
Um, I'll give my perspective and you give your perspective, but I'm somebody that spent over 3 years in solitary confinement. Longest period of time was about 14 months straight, a little bit over. At one point, I lost 55 pounds back there. I had guards saying that they were going to do stuff to my food on certain shifts. I was transferred from one hole to another, put in the turtle suit, never said I was going to do anything. I've got a list of things that occurred to me for a number of reasons, I believe wholeheartedly, including I believe that solitary confinement was weaponized and used at me when I was in a relationship with a former staff member years ago.
Mm.
Um, it was all,
Retaliation.
yeah, it was all bad for me. Um, the concrete walls, the echoes, the lighting, the food, just everything, the separation. They were holding my mail, all these things. To this day, I feel like it's had an impact on me. And I've never once got up here and been like, oh, I'm perfect. I'm wall. No, if I'm not all the way healed, solitary is the reason.
Ugh.
What's your perspective on it as somebody has a loved one back there? What are some things that you can share? Because you said long term. So I got a feeling like, because I know brothers, I was telling people there's brothers been back there 10 years, especially when they had to grow or they couldn't cut their hair for,
Oh, that was ridiculous. Yeah, yeah. It's crazy because since I've been advocating that bill that Taj was talking about, and now I'm living it. It happened in April. He was sent back there they accused him of a very serious institutional charge, where on the incident report, the time that the supposed alleged incident happened, he was actually on the phone with me on GTO records. But me and my shout out to my co-rep, we've pulled data. They are very much increasing solitary. And he was one of the ones that fell into the trap of being wrongfully back there, unfortunately. So now we're on month 9. We're on month 9, and it's been really tough. It's called the Step Down Program at Red Onion State Prison. It's long-term solitary. ACLU has a class action lawsuit on it. It is, if you read that policy, it is literally designed to trap them in there for years. That's why you heard of
can
guys.
you can
Go
you
ahead.
give them what the step down program is exactly?
Yeah, I can. So the step down program, you go in it and you start at like either, I'm not going to get too technical, but 0, then 1, 2, 3. You have all these steps. And then when you get through those steps, you get to a level 6. And then you have those steps, but each step is 6 months that you're in that step.
No matter
And
what.
no matter what, and the things that they do to get you out of that step, you can't, like, of course, have charges, and you know how those officers are out there in the mountains,
Right.
but not all of them, like Tosh
Right.
said. They're not a monolith, just like we're not a monolith, but they get it's charges. Even officers like have to rate them. Like the floor officers are part of their transition out. Like this criteria to move from one to the next, it basically, but regardless, say if you're just like you do perfect, right? This thing, it's still about 3 years. You're gonna be back there for sure. And my guy gets home And they took all of his good time, by the way, so you lose that. But he now is at his max date in 2029. So basically, he's going to be released from red onion long-term solitary confinement if I can't get us help. Hmm. And like you said, he's lost so much weight because they don't, you can't, they don't feed you, and you can't order commissary when you're back there. But go
That's
ahead.
what I was gonna add. So no commissary, no
Till you're
no
like step one, and it's barely anything.
TV.
To step one is TV, but see, he's been at a zero. He's been back there 9 months, and he still has no TV, no commissary, 2 phone calls a month, one video visit a month if you're charge free for 6 months. And then, behind the glass visits for 1 hour shackled and all that. But who's going to drive to the mountains on a Wednesday for 1 hour to see your loved one in shackles behind the glass? You know what I mean? It's bad. Talk
What?
about stay free.
Right. What? And I need people to really understand. So her loved one's in the hole till he goes home in 20 till he comes home in 2029. So I want to pose the question to y'all in the chat. I see y'all. We got about 90 over here. We got some people over here.
Okay.
What do you think? Yeah, yeah. Shout out to y'all, man. What do you think is going to be the impact on his mental health? What do you think the overall impact of just being in solitary confinement is? And again, for the individuals that just say punishment, 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 is that really the key or the pathway that we should be taking with individuals that are coming home? Because when I first came home, I was no good. So
Yeah, I really worry about that, Chris. Because I've already seen his mental health deteriorate. He's never like had a mental health thing. I mean,
yeah,
it's prison, so you struggle, but now there's some clear things. And so and I have mental health based off of my trauma and
right,
my survivor stuff. So and it's ripple effects. I don't think
right.
people realize that. I'm like isolated and solitary too. I mean, shout out to I
That's
know
real though.
some of the community, but I know some of my prison wives are tuned in, but we rally together. But it is extremely hard because it's like what it does to your brain, because the deprivation, you
Oh yeah,
have no touch, no sound, you're in a cell for hours. You know, to come from that to come out, I mean, you would be able to tell me better, but I get really worried about that, about what it's doing to his brain. So I try my best to like, I send him we do visualization. I have him doing tapping. I'm trying to send all this neuroscience stuff to him. We
right.
read. Like, I'm trying my best to combat that, but
Well, find comfort in that though. That
yeah.
you're aware, you're conscious, you understand the impact. So he's got support, and he's got a community he's returning to that. You're connected to support, so that's good. Because for me, I was so bad. I was twitching in the eye when I came home. My nerves were shot. I was super hyper vigilant. My family's jumping up and down, celebrating. I'm out of prison. I'm just looking like we on the yard. And in
Mm.
full transparency, as me and my wife have spoke about before, I almost, just because of the energy I was getting off, like every day, I almost ruined my marriage, other opportunities. I almost came back to prison. Like it was really bad. But I didn't have, she didn't have it either. We didn't have the knowledge. We didn't understand PTSD. Nobody was talking to us. Nobody was really having the conversation about mental health. So you guys are in a better situation, even though it's still a hard thing, you know.
That's a
And
really great point, because and shout out to his family. He doesn't have just me. Like, his
right,
mom is amazing.
shout
We
out.
lean on each other, and he has a son. Like, he has a
Mhm.
really great support system. But that, I see that all the time, and I know it's social media, but people just don't prepare. You don't realize, like, you're expecting all this fantasy and things, and like, you got to get prepared. We do as loved ones, to support our loved one when they come home, and understand and have things lined up for them. That's why your platform's so important, Chris, because you do show that, you and your wife. And he he went out on me.
Oh, we're back. I was like, keep going. I could see you on
I
this
know, but
screen.
I'm like, I feel like I wasn't at a good build, and I'm like, what do I do? Just do a song and dance? I mean, I'm on live.
Hey, listen, we are this is live in case anybody didn't know. Some of the comments I just want to
Okay.
chime in. Fatima had put 95% of people incarcerated are released. How do we want them to be when they get out? That question is for the individuals again that may, feel that people don't deserve rehabilitation. Um, Somebody said, hold on. Somebody said they hate step towns. It's reverse psychology. So this sounds like it was either somebody in VA or they just know their experience with that process. Um, Somebody said no type of rehabilitation. A lot of sentiments in the comments, y'all. Absolute destruction. Cried to get off there. Do you want to touch on Red Onion a little bit, just so people can understand the levels in VA and where Red Onion sits and why it's Red Onion?
Yeah, the levels, in any probably state system is minimum, medium, max security. Red Onion is a max. It's not the only one. Wallens Ridge is another one, but they're so remote. They're in the Appalachian Mountains on the like Virginia, West Virginia border. So you have such a cultural clash out there because you have a lot of men from Richmond, Virginia Beach, and like where my man's from, Nova. You know what I mean? Northern Virginia, DC area. And so you have a lot of, they say the worst of the worst is there. It's not true. I mean, because what happens is you can get shipped out there for getting a cell phone. Like for having a cell phone, you can get shipped to the mountains. You could go in the system. He had a cellie at one time that was 19, but because of his crime, it was his crime, but because of his crime, his age, and I'm sorry, those assessments were racial, but because of that,
I went out
he,
and came back. My fault.
I'll keep talking. Your crime in Virginia can put you at a high level. Like, and you didn't even do nothing. Now, for my guy personally, he got in a fight at a level 3, and he should have been shipped up to level 4. But they can discretionary ship you up.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. And then he got out there, and it's just been real downhill since then. But that's Red Onion. It's a maximum security prison. It houses level 5s and then long term solitary, which they call level S and level 6.
Yeah. That was
Mm-hmm.
always like I never made it there. I'm glad I never made it there. Farthest or highest level was Sussex too. I seen somebody in the comments said they opened up Sussex 1 and Wallace Ridge. Yo, you already know. Um, Somebody said for them it was self-inflicted why they ended up going there in their personal journey. And it can be. I a lot of my whole time and when I got it was me. It was me, but it's not always the person. There's plenty of people that are caught in crossfires. Plenty of people, how over sentencing is a thing in the world. Like being sent to solitary confinement for 6 months when you should only be in there for 2 days is definitely a thing in prison, and that's the issue. Um,
Yeah, we also like have to understand that my guys was self inflicted why he got to Red Onion. Regardless, it was supposed to be a higher level, but it happened. But we have survivors, like behind the walls too, and we have a lot of survivors who were survivor out here. I have a loved one who he's okay with me sharing a story, but he experienced a lot of abuse as a child, and he went on in a traumatic moment and like reacted, and a life was taken. And he said ever since then he's like, he was what we're talking about with Taj. He's had no charge. He's
right.
been in there 20 years, and now he's in this black hole. But we have to think about the survivor aspect of it too. And that's why I love to do Survivors for Justice Reform, because it's all intertwined. It's not a binary.
Yeah, and there's people that are struggling with mental health that end up getting in trouble on the inside and sent up there because they can't manage them in regular population.
Yeah.
Um, the list goes on and on. Unfortunately, when it comes to solitary confinement, and the tragedy is attached to it. Um, I want to ask you this,
Okay.
um, because you spoke a little bit about it, and you say you shout out to the prison wives out there. Any of the family members of anybody that's incarcerated, we know you guys are standing in the trenches with them.
Yeah.
But for anybody that doesn't know, what are some of the things that loved ones of those incarcerated experience, feel, etc.?
A lot of loneliness, you feel a lot of isolation. And I'm telling you, probably the biggest one I feel is worry. I worry a lot. Like, for example, he's missed 3 phone days, right? So he gets the phone like Fridays, Tuesdays, and Sundays, and I haven't heard from him since last Friday. No JPay, no phone. So I'm worried because there's been incidents, like you said, where he's been strapped and like different pepper spray, different things have happened. So when you don't hear, you just worry. I experienced a lot of worry and like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Like, and then I think
Exactly.
isolation is another one that we experience. That's why we really have to like take care of ourselves as loved ones. We really, and that's all he encourages me to do is like take care of myself. We encourage each other to do that. You have to, and try to connect. We connect in the most creative ways. Shout out to WMMT. It's a radio state. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Is that the call in the radio in the mountains? What's it
Yeah,
called?
it's a
I
Monday
talked to
night.
the lady, the founder, or I forgot her name.
Sylvia.
I think so. I think Fatima had connected us on a call one time briefly.
Well, Sylvia she made the documentary. I don't know if she like started it. And now there's DJ Ramblin' Rose. She's the DJ now. The DJ has changed over the years, but DJ Ramblin' Rose, shout out to her. She does it now, but it's Monday nights. They play hip hop and you can request. So
Mhm.
I leave a song request and he sends it to the radio through JPay and he'll leave me a song request
Nice.
and then you call in and you leave messages and then all of us prison wives are and like and moms we're in the chat like talking. It's like Monday night date night.
You
So,
know how lit he is when he
oh,
hears
he
the
lit.
shout out. I
He's lit.
already know. I already know. We had like we could barely get this one radio. We was in Sussex though, but every now and then they would do shout out. Somebody would, y'all want to shout out, and the whole pod would go crazy because everybody be listening to that radio station at night. That's shout out to the people that are coming up with creative ways to
Yeah, shout
communicate.
out to that radio station, man. They do a lot. And I know on my end, I cry like a baby because I just needed that. I haven't heard anything and
It's
now I get
connection.
a message through the radio and I'm like crying and he's in there celebrating with the guys back in long. I shout them out too, like shout out to LTG. We call them the long term gang.
Shout them all out, man. They
Yeah.
going through it. There's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
going on up in that region, man. So
Yeah.
definitely prayers for the brothers, and hoping everybody makes it up off there, because that's
Yeah.
definitely and to anybody as we bringing this, we're nearing the end, man. Think about the fact that you have individuals that back there, like we said, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. Like you literally have individuals that are back there for those long periods of time. Question:
Answer.
if you had one thing to say to the world right now about advocacy, life, relationship, goal set, whatever it is, heading into 2026, as we near the end of this part one, I believe, of this live stream, what would you say?
I would say to prioritize yourself and your health mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Take care of yourself. And that's why I love Survivors for Justice Reform because it's do as much as or little as you want. It's taking care of ourselves first. And we have that motto in my relationship and my friendships. But I've really been focused on a lot of self care. And I highly recommend that. It's just critical.
Yeah, I finally implemented true self care about a week ago. I invested in a TikTok shop treadmill that
Okay.
what I got, an adjustable bench, and I got one of those saunas on Black Friday, so it was like $90. So hey, portable sauna, I'm good to go. Self care.
Especially the people in reentry, take care of yourself, prioritize yourself,
We
man.
don't know how to. We come home and we run. So I'm
Yeah,
glad
I
you
know.
said that.
Mhm.
Allison, it's always a privilege and honor. Thank you as always for the work that you do. Hopefully we'll get you up here for a part two. There's a lot of people in the room, man. Shout out to everybody that's sticking around
Shout
down here.
out.
I see
Mhm.
y'all in the comments, man. Somebody said they did 18 years. Uh, I don't know who else is in here, man. We got everybody in here. But listen, to anybody that was on the call, thank you for spending your time with us. We'll continue to have these conversations. I'm back up here at 7 p.m. with another amazing conversation of another amazing individual that's doing some impactful work when it comes to criminal justice reform and more. Allison, again, thank you.
Thank
Until
you.
next time, matter of fact, make sure y'all check out Survivors for Justice Reform. Coalition. Make sure y'all just check them out,
Check
see the
it out.
work that they're doing. They're global, so you can reach them everywhere, man.
Yep.
Appreciate it, Allison, and we'll
Peace.
see you next time. Peace.